Shalom. Usually I just give you one small segment of the Torah portion and about how it is relevant to your life. Today we're going bigger, something longer and more intense. I hope you're able to get something even more impactful out of it. Because today, instead of looking at one moment of one parasha, we're actually looking at an entire sefer, an entire book of the Torah. Now, each sefer has like an overarching theme. Right? And if we have Bereshit, Genesis, the big picture, there isn't just one, but it is about creation, establishment. God makes the world, and then it's really about family and family dynamics. And there is so much to learn about what to do and not do in familial relationships. And then we move on to Sefer Shemot, Exodus, and there we chronologically move from enslavement to the receiving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. Right, so chronologically, there is that whole time period, but in experience, it's about the formation of a nation. Then we kind of take a break from the narrative, and the next book of the Torah, Vayikra, is really like all rules. Once you have the Torah, how are you going to live your life? What does that mean? And then we get to this Sefer Bamidbar, and we're back in the narrative. But what is the big overarching theme? Because there's a lot of narrative. And here is where we're talking about community. And community in crisis, or at least struggling. Where can a community really struggle, and what can we do about it? All right, there's 10 books, 10 parshiot in the book of Bamidbar. First two, it's about getting things ready. Last two about getting things ready. Middle six, community in crisis, each a different type. So if we set up from Bamidbar, let's keep in mind chronologically, we've just gotten the Torah. We've left Har Sinai. We're getting the Mishkan ready. Things should be amazing. And that's what's really happening in those first two parshiot of Bamidbar and Naso. The Mishkan, the temple, the tabernacle, if you will, is inaugurated. We are ready. The Levim are getting consecrated. Things are ready to move forward. Everything should be amazing. So we get to the third parasha, Behalotecha. And here's where it should all just be perfect. We're ready. We're 3 days from Israel. It's going to be amazing, right? And then there's the strange backwards nuns that I spoke about. The people start to complain. And I spoke about this in another video, but understand what is it they're really complaining about is shortage of resources, a resource crisis, supply chain issues, if you will. And what does that really mean within a community? Now, this first crisis of the resource question it's interesting because it's a universal question. And this community that we're describing here could be your family, your organization, your school, your synagogue, your neighborhood, right? It gets big, it gets small. What are the resources you have? What do you need? How are you going to make sure that everybody has what they do or do not need? And it's really interesting as it is portrayed in Behalotecha, because the crisis they have is there is no meat, and they are outraged by the lack of meat. Well, so that we're clear, one, do they have food? Do they have the resources they really need? Yes, they have manna, this divine food. Every morning, it's wherever you want it to be, however you want it to be, it's everywhere. Not enough. They want meat. Do they have meat? Yes, they're walking around with sheep and goats. They have meat. They could eat their meat. But instead, they are demanding it. It's not enough. What they have isn't sufficient. So whenever you enter a resource crisis in a community, it's important to take a step back and say, is it a resource we really need? Is it a resource we really don't have? We want more money for our whatever. But the truth is, if you think about it, maybe you do have that money in your bank account. You just don't want to spend it on that. And then you should really rethink about what resources you have and where they should go. All right, resource crisis, that was Behalotecha. Then we move on to Parshat Shelach. Parshat Shelach is where we have the sin of the spies. And here, the real big crisis, the problem is doubt. Doubt in the mission, doubt in the individual, just doubt. It's not a good idea. That's what they decide. Now, the opposite of doubt is emunah, faith. And that's really the only way to combat a major issue of doubt wherever that is plaguing you. But instead of trying to up the emunah, the people ignore the words of Caleb and Yehoshua, and they listen to the 10. So that's another piece of doubt. When you have doubt, what can grow that doubt? The mob mentality, but really the things around you. You're feeling insecure about your appearance, whatever. It's so easy to hear the big picture of, you need more makeup, you need to go on a diet plan, all that noise will overwhelm you and make you doubt more, believe less. And this is in the divine sense of trusting God. And Hashem's like, nope, that's it, I'm done. 40 years in the desert. And that's the punishment. We don't go straight to Israel, we stay in the desert. All right, as we make our way through Bamidbar and the communities, first we had Ba'alotcha, and that's resources. Then we have Shalach, which is the real issue of doubt, and the punishment of 40 years. And that brings us to Korach, which is the issue of trusting leadership. And I'm not saying this is easy, and I'm not trying to get political here. But if you doubt your leaders every step of the way, you're going to be stuck too. So it is about building trust in leaders and not just trying to overthrow them, which is what happens in this portion with Korach and Moshe. It's also really about seeing what your individual role is and then what your collective role is. But the big thing is trusting leaders all the way through and how we can work that out. All right, that's Korach. Then we move on to the next Torah portion, which is Chukat. And that is about losing leaders. And in Parshat Chukat, Miriam's going to pass away. Aaron is going to pass away, and Moshe is going to be told that he is not going to take the people into the land of Israel. So within your organization, when somebody retires, moves away, passes away, within a family or an organization or whatever it is, within a community, how you move forward to work to trust a new leader, but to really process that as a community and how difficult that is. And it happens that in Chukat, the people start complaining again about not having the resources they need, about not having the food they need, and not having the water they need. And I don't think it's actually a resource crisis. I think it's the doubt creeping up. And it's also I don't know if this happens to you, but when you're like, oh, I'm so hungry. You're not hungry. You're scared. You're sad. You're bored. And that's just how it's manifesting. It's not a resource crisis. It's the great fear of change of leadership. And that's Chukat. And then we move to Balak, which is a completely different community problem. And that is the outside trying to ruin you. And that's genuinely what is happening in Balak, right? They want to destroy, curse, ruin the Jewish people. The king comes up with a plan. He hires right? And that really manifests in many different ways today. Yes, anti-Semitism isn't gone, but really all the ways and processing what you do when an outside force is trying to ruin the inside. I will say the one upshot of it is that when there's an outside force pushing in, the inside binds together. And it does really help with our achdut, with our unity. So that is the beauty of what happens in Balak, is that everything is A-okay. And that transitions to the next portion, which is Parshat Pinchas. And that is about continuity, moving things forward. Continuity. And then that really affects, again, whatever it is we're talking about, but how things transfer from one generation to the next, more simply, one leadership team to the next. But we look at it in Jewish continuity lenses here. It's about intermarriage. It's about inheritance. And then it's about the holidays, which I really love. That if we're going to talk about continuity of our community and moving it forward, let's look at our beautiful gift of our holidays. We also have the daughters of Slofchad fighting for land in Israel. Let's look at all the beauty of what we're passing on within our community and how valuable it is and how much we want it. And then the last two parshiot are Matot and Maaseh. And they really parallel with Bamidbar and Naso of getting things ready with living in Israel, where people are going to be located, how it's all going to work, right? So we have Bamidbar as a whole. First two parshiot, getting things ready for our community and our Jewish future. Last two parshiot, Matot Maseh, parallel that. And in the middle, we have 6 portions explaining how you can help a community that is struggling and the different struggles that they have. So think about it for your own community. It's amazing that the Torah is a guidebook for all people, for all time, in all places. And I know that these 6 are relevant in so many places around the world right now. So think if it connects to you, your family, your organization, your schools, your synagogues, your community. Resources. What do you have? What do you need? That's Balorcha. Shalach. Doubt and not letting doubt eat you. Korach. Trusting your leaders. Chukat. Dealing with a change in leadership. Balak. The outside forces trying to ruin you. The continuity in Pinchas of what's important to you. And that's Bamidbar as a whole. And that's you and the people around you and the community that you're a part of. So figure out how to make it strong, how to make it powerful, how to make it